next speaker is Mick Brentnall, the Ador.
My name is Michael Brentnall. I'm a solicitor in North Belfast. Our practice is just on the outskirts of Breandán on the Old Park Road. And essentially, I can just follow on from what Agnes has said in relation to the current situation. We have a welfare officer who works with ourselves, and what we have come into contact with people is overwhelming. It's absolutely frightening, because we have people who are essentially living on next to nothing, and the state is actively preventing them at points, discouraging them. But basically what I intend to do is give a legal analysis of the current welfare system and any means of challenge that we have. Essentially, when someone gets a benefit or is given a refusal notice or a revocation with certain change of circumstances, basically there's a procedure that goes in place where you have the refusal of the initial decision. It'll go on to appeal. It'll go then, if again that's refused, it'll go to the Commissioner, and then the final means of challenge is through judicial review. But basically, this system is designed to fail. And just in relation to DLA, if anybody has seen or applied for DLA, the booklet that you have to fill in is immense. For a lay person to do, it is extremely difficult. We have somebody to do that welfare officer would take them through it, and it would take an hour, maybe more. And that's somebody qualified to go through that and take them through it. So by design, it puts the person at a disadvantage immediately. But then we have the sort of second stage. Once that is refused, and as Agnes has said, it is incredibly complex. There's medical evidence. People don't get DLA just by fluke or because of minor ailments. It's a long process where GPs notes and ailments and whatever else are put through. So if somebody gets it, they're deserving of it. But we have found recently, and I have a number of practical examples of where we have challenged it through both internal sort of social services means, through the appeal, then to the Commissioner. We're currently with one that is just come through the Commissioner, and it's heading for judicial review. It's not just social security, the issues that are being challenged. We have the housing executive. There's a culture of austerity that is in place. This is an unofficial policy that is operating before even these other cuts come in. There is a policy that's being administered currently to cut where available, and this is urgent on people who have genuine claims. So essentially we have a housing executive client who is entitled to a certain benefit, and that is being revoked. And they know that this challenge is going to take time, so they put a time scale on that and say, well, we can save such and such by doing that. So once it gets a challenge, it's overturned. The same with the DLA, but basically the DLA, you can have it backdated. So that the challenge goes on. I'll refer quickly to one case, but just to address the issue that Agnes raised about the conflict-related issues, we have currently got a judicial review about to proceed in relation to the Victim and Survivor Service, whereby the entitlement to sort of funding from the Victim and Survivor Service is based on whether you have DLA or whether you have certain benefits. And one thing that they don't take into account, if somebody is on benefits, say for talk's sake a retired RUC officer, they may be on benefits, but they also may be getting a pension. They may be on all sorts of other means of income, but that then puts them in the position of a victim. And this then brings into the political sphere of who is a victim, which then reflects on somebody's income and what they're entitled to. So we have clients who there is a transgenerational problem through conflict where their father has been or mother has been killed, and they're paying the price essentially for that. But that again is going to be challenged through the courts. So I'll not I'll not go on with that one, but basically I'll give you a number of practical examples of this culture of austerity that's in place, and it's permeating within the entire system. As I said, it goes from government department to department. So we have had one case where there was a woman who had applied and got DLA. She had a degenerative muscle wasting condition. She had arthritis, fibromyalgia, and depression. And in 2013, they decided to have a periodic review, and she lost her care component, which, by coincidence, there is, when she was on income support, there was a passport to an extra benefit of £61, which immediately went. So, essentially, she came to us, we appealed it, and the reason that they had given in their statement of reasons was that this woman had gone on holiday. And basically, she had gone on a holiday and had to use a wheelchair. But as we've all seen in these TV programs and the machine that's on Benefit Street, whatever else, this is travelling media essentially. So basically, this woman had lost her DLA because she went on holiday, even though she was on a wheelchair. So we challenged it. It's still ongoing now. It was a period of 3 to 4 months where the DLA had been removed, and we made a fresh claim for it, and it was awarded. So essentially, there's 4 months where she has been removed from DLA on the basis of going on holiday. That is to be challenged again. It has come to the point where it's gone to the Commissioner. We're awaiting the decision on that. So basically, this is just there is a culture of austerity and there's policy. It's an unofficial policy that is operating by proxy within the government departments. I'll refer just to another example. Basically, a client had applied for a community care grant. He had been, in this case was in the media, he had been beaten by a UDA gang, forced from his home, and essentially had to, that night, leave everything behind, and came to ourselves, and we applied for a crisis loan for him. And that was refused on the basis that he didn't meet the criteria. This is a family, a fella and his partner and their 8-month-old child, and left everything behind, were threatened by loyalist paramilitaries not to go back to the house, didn't go back to the house and applied for it. They refused them, and through the appeal was refused again, and it got then again to the Commissioner. The Commissioner then overturned it, but there was a period of 2 months where this family had no money, had nothing, had no furniture. They were sleeping on a mattress and had a sofa in the house. This is a fact of life for this family, and basically it came to the Commissioner, and the Commissioner then overturned it. So again, this highlights the policy that is permeating through this system. The last example that, and it's heartbreaking to be perfectly honest, an 83-year-old woman lived in a housing executive house and was advised by a social worker to go into what was essentially a fold. So she gave up the house and went into the fold. She had a social worker, had a housing officer, and she was living basically on pension credit, or a state pension of £113.10 a week. And out of this she was paying rent to the fold to the tune of basically £87 a week, leaving her with a state pension to live on of £26.10 a week. So she came into our office with 2 coats on, almost destitute, living in abject poverty, and basically what we are dealing with is an organisation that has computers that trigger anybody who lives at an address and is claiming this and claiming that from different sort of departments, and it flags them up. But it doesn't flag anybody up who's not claiming enough and who's living in those circumstances. So basically, in other people's, altogether there was what, 2.8 billion in pension credit that went unclaimed in 2012. So this 83-year-old woman had social services, housing association, and basically she was ignored and allowed to live on that. This wasn't flagged up by anybody. So it just shows the system is failed to design, and it essentially discriminates against the person applying. And that is our role, essentially. We are there to challenge, through the various mechanisms, this policy of austerity. And we do so, and then if it comes to the last point, we take it to the High Court and challenge it through judicial review when the domestic remedies have been exhausted. So really that, in a brief outline, that's all I can really say, that the system is designed to make it so difficult for people, and then to delay and delay and delay, and when they do then overturn a decision, they will have to pay the backdated money if it is appealed and successful and brought to, these people need to be brought to account, essentially. And with this new policy as well coming in, the legislation, and if this legislation is put through, this legislation needs to be challenged, and that's the role of the legal profession. If people come to us with issues, this legislation needs to be challenged about its compatibility with the European Convention and the right to private and family life. That 83-year-old woman's right to private and family life was ignored, and it brings in positive obligations. The state has positive obligations to look after its citizens, and if it fails to do those, we will challenge them, and the legal profession is under a duty then to challenge them. So really, I don't think there's too much to add, but the odds are stacked against people, but people need to empower themselves, seek advice from Agnes, from ourselves, from whoever necessary, and act on this, because that's part of the notion behind this. It makes it so difficult, people just, I'll let it go. Let's decide that, but pretend never be able to do it. But there is help out there, and it can be done through ourselves and through other local people like Agnes there. And we have found with North Belfast, I'm sure West Belfast is the same, that there are people living below the breadline, and people need to, just stand up, get themselves in to see somebody and to challenge these decisions.
Just on that very point that Nick has made, that now that the office is on a main road here, on the Springfield Road, and what we were saying when we had our office around the corner in Dunleary Street, and we were hoping for people to avail of the services that we have. It's all voluntary on the part of, not putting Nick in the spot, but he'd be helping people, and no doubt Agnes, and there's other people in this room here who can deal with, as much of an expert on benefits and other issues that people maybe feel need advice on. Not necessarily help, but advice. And I would suggest that any of you leaving here tonight, talking to your friends, family, or whatever, who need advice. There's a lot of advice centres around Belfast, mostly in working class areas, and I would say the same thing, that people should avail of it here. Our numbers are there, there's enough of us out there and about, and we're not doing this for any popular, no elections coming up yet, so it's not because of elections, but if there was elections, I'd be standing here and saying, yes, that's why we're doing it for, that's why we're doing it. So I would suggest that any of you who need any advice, or anybody you know needs advice, that Agnes is ready to declare herself being there for North Belfast, and we have people in this office. So anyway, that's something we should bear in mind.